All right, Mark and Paulette here, the two travelers in Mexico. And today we are going to talk about differences between the U.S. and Mexico in some things. Paulette is going to lead it off first with one of her things, windows in Mexico.
And we have 5, 10, 15. So, number 1 is the windows in Mexico versus the windows in the U.S.
Yep.
And the windows in Mexico, I would say 99% of the time are single pane windows, and they're the aluminum windows that go in. Mm-hmm. And in the States, you can get dual pane. Is there even triple pane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's gas filled and all that other stuff too.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ones. Here, whenever they build a home, it's usually single pane and the aluminum window frames. Mm-hmm. That's how it is. The other thing that I want to talk about is Mark and I kind of mentioned on our Facebook page, I don't think we mentioned it on our videos, but we've had like our downstairs slider leak in water and our upstairs bedroom, guest room, and it leaks water inside the frame. And we've never had, ever in the States, that issue where when it rains, the water comes in the frame, ever. But not here in Mexico. And we found out that what it is a lot of times, and maybe Mark can explain it better, is the way that the windows are put in the U.S., they kind of slant a little bit, right? They're kind of, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know.
The window seal, a lot of times at the bottom of the windows in the U.S., there will be a slant that goes out so that the water runs off the ceiling
and you
down
don't
to the
see
ground.
it. You would never see it. You would never notice it. Mm-hmm. But it's just the way that they're installed. Yeah. Here, not so much. They're flat. And we just found out, talking about windows, because we just had a window guy out here to take care of this stuff, because after 5 years, I was ready to pull my hair out. And he took the window out, right? Uh-huh. And what did he show you?
He showed me that there was a gap between the window and the wall that had no filling, no cement filling whatsoever. It was probably maybe close to a half an inch wide at the bottom. So basically the aluminum was in that area was all exposed to the weather, not sealed off or anything. And so we put a bunch of sealer in there to take care of that problem. And
well, he did.
Yeah. And I think that's what the issue was with that particular window.
Yeah, because we couldn't figure out what the why the water was coming in. We knew something wasn't right. And anyhow, so when he took the window frame out, that's what the problem was. So, again, bad workmanship. Mm-hmm. Right.
And in the case of our sliding windows downstairs, they had put in an aluminum window frame that was supposed to be solid at the bottom, but it wasn't. It was hollow. And then they drilled some holes to drain the water, but those holes ultimately led to the inside of the house rather than the outside of the house. And so the guy came and pulled the complete window frame out. He patched up the holes that shouldn't be there.
He said it shouldn't be a problem, because we were asking him, do we have to get a whole new, frame, and what do we need to do? And he's like, no, I think I got it.
Yeah. So we'll see. He called back the next day after it rained to see if water had gotten leaked in on the floor, and it hadn't, although there was a little bit of water in the window frame.
There was a little bit of water in the window frame, and I don't think that should have happened at all.
Yeah. So, all right.
Number 2.
Numero dos.
Got that.
Okay, so number 2, we're going to talk about cabinets in Mexico. Very often they're made from that, like that malamite type of material, almost never from solid wood. And in Mexico, in the houses that we looked at before we bought this one, there was hardly any cabinet space whatsoever. Almost all of the bathroom sinks, as an example, just had the exposed plumbing, no cabinet there.
Yep. And under the stairwells, same thing, open.
So we paid to have a bunch of cabinetry installed.
In our bathrooms.
Right, in our bathrooms and under our stairs.
Under our stairs.
And it was just...
and where else? In that storage room,
right,
it's called the maid's room.
Yeah, in the storage room.
So we had, one wall is all cabinets now.
Yeah.
And then we had a little cabinet, well, not little, it's pretty tall, but we had a cabinet made with some shelving inside and a door also for our laundry area to store stuff.
Yeah. And so while the workmanship was pretty good, when they make cabinets here, they're hardly ever out of solid wood.
No.
They're going to be like some sort of a wood composite.
Yeah, and I don't know how good those are going to hold up, honestly.
Yeah.
I really don't. So if you have experience with them here in Mexico, let us know how long that the life of the cabinets lasts when they're made out of that material. So that's just something different too versus the US.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's usually no cabinets underneath sinks. It's just the way it is.
All right.
Okay, number 3.
Installation.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about installing things, having things installed in your home. And honestly, our home was brand new. Nobody had lived here before we bought it. It was during COVID. And I will say this, honestly, from my heart, the workmanship on a lot of it is crappy workmanship. I will say that. And I don't know why that is. And I think in the States you still get better craftsmanship than you do in Mexico, because my thought, and let me know yours, my thought is that a lot of times, like workers will go to a job site or whatever, or the contractor, nobody ever sees a job. That is for sure. There is no management over a job whatsoever. No project manager to go back and see things. No inspections. Nada. Right?
Yeah.
Nada. So the craftsmanship, I think that a lot of times what they do is on the workers, they just maybe find some workers from another site. Nico, we're filming, please. And so they'll just find some workers from another site, or they'll say, hey, we need a couple of more men. Do you know somebody that knows how to do tile? Oh, yeah. Well, I know somebody. Do you know somebody that knows how to do electrical? Oh, yeah. Okay, well, there's no, there are some people that are certified, I think, in, electrician and stuff like that. But I would say 90% of them are not. Yeah. That's my guess. Maybe I'm wrong. Leave me a comment below if you know otherwise. But I would say maybe 10% in Mexico are actually certified that they do the kind of work that they do. Here, not so much.
Yeah.
No.
As an example, we had a painter come and paint our gate because he said he knew how to paint. So I took him at his word.
He was painting somebody's gate, I think.
Yeah.
We saw him down the street.
He painted our gate. He also painted the sidewalk and the neighbor's car next door, which wasn't good. Thankfully, it was just overspray and it was
but thank God
easily
it came
wiped
off.
off.
I think he did it on both sides, didn't he?
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. And of course, our driveway was the same color as our gate for quite some time until the paint wore off. But
yeah.
Anyhow.
And then here's Paulette's other beef with painters, and mine too, is that they never use tarps wherever they go.
And we've always supplied tarps.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. They don't use them. But they're gone by the time that they're done.
And know that we typically go to Home Depot or some paint store and buy our paint, just know that when you have it, when you have your house painted, they're going to mix it with paint thinner or water. The paint, they're going to mix with paint thinner or water.
Why?
Even though
Why?
You might specifically say, I don't want it mixed.
Why?
They do it anyway.
Why, Mexico? Why do you do that? I'm buying the paint. Please don't do that. It's no skin off your nose. And so a lot of times when they paint, Now you've got streaks coming
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
And Mark and I just recently had a wall painted that goes up to our balcony. And there were like some drips in it. We couldn't tell because he didn't leave until like 7 o'clock that night. We thought it looked good, but how can you really tell without the lighting hitting it and all that stuff?
In the daylight, it told a different story.
In the daylight, it told a different story. So I got out the can of paint and I was going to touch up those areas because there was a lot of them.
And
the paint was like water.
right.
And I go, Mark, he added water to the paint again. Again. So please, somebody that lives in Mexico that knows about painting, please help me understand why.
Yeah.
Why? Paint is made a certain consistency to go on the wall at a certain thickness. Not have water added to it. No, you don't do that. Okay, number 4.
You'll almost see a threshold installed on a door. Typically the door will go like right down, well, not right down, almost all the way down to the tile part of the floor. And a lot of times there will be a small gap, as an example, between the bottom of the door and the floor, which allows bugs to crawl in or dust to come in or something
And what are you
like
talking
that.
about? Are you talking about in Mexico or are you talking about the United States?
In Mexico.
Okay.
In the United States, they typically install a threshold on a door, which will prevent that, but that's not the case here in Mexico. So just be aware of that.
Although, did we have one installed?
No,
No, we did downstairs on our front door.
that wasn't a threshold. That was
That was that stripping.
weather stripping. Yeah,
You won't find that either, by the
Yeah.
way, while we're talking about weather stripping, that piece down at the bottom.
yeah,
Nope, you have to add that. That's extra. And so's thresholds.
yeah.
Okay. Number 5.
Number 5, weather stripping. They don't really use that here in Mexico. I haven't seen it installed really in any of the typical places that you would see in the United States, like around doors or sometimes around windows. Here, not so much. And
I suppose you could do that yourself.
yeah, you can. I mean, and it's easy enough to do, but you just don't see it installed
Yeah.
as a standard in a house.
Yeah, like as a standard like you would in the U.S.
Yeah.
Not so much here.
Okay.
6.
Number 6. We're going to cover a couple subjects here: electrical and
plumbing.
Plumbing has been interesting here. They don't
Challenging.
yeah. Part
Nico,
of it's
I'm filming. Hey. Nico, I'm filming. He's wanting to play with Fiona, and she's not in the
Yeah.
play mood.
yeah. So plumbing has been interesting here. Plumbing here in Mexico, I'm pretty sure they use like thinner PVC than they do in the United States, for one, which can create some issues. Secondly, if you have a plumbing issue in your house, you might be having to cut out pieces of walls or something. But if you have a plumbing issue in Mexico, you're going to wind up jackhammering up some concrete to get to the plumbing. And in our case, in the area where we live, we see a lot of leaks on the streets too, which leads me to think that they don't use quality piping in the streets. And so, I just see water coming out from the areas where the water goes into a house, right by where the meter typically is. So then I message the water company to report the leak. And sometimes they're out here in a day or two or a week or whatever. So plumbing is an issue there. I'm not sure that when they put two pipes together, if they use the proper sort of glue to glue the pipes together. I mean, they use some kind of glue, but I don't think it's built to last per se.
Stop, that's my mic.
And the same thing with electrical. If you have electrical issues in your wall, you're going to be chipping out a lot of concrete.
Yeah, that's the thing here. Yeah.
And if you need wiring run or an outlet installed somewhere, same thing. You're going to be chipping out a lot of concrete to get an outlet. So
yeah, because we just had an outlet on our wall going out to our balcony, so we would have better reception out here. And it took him a while because he had to go through the brick and cement.
Yeah. I mean, luckily we were only going like that far from a light fixture to an outlet that we wanted to have installed. So it wasn't that bad, and then it got painted over. But, you know, in general, if you don't have an outlet in a room, there's going to be a lot of cement chipping to get an outlet into a room. Or you just run an extension cord or something. So that's, you know, what can make installing wiring a more difficult process than it would be in the United States.
Yeah.
And messier, I think.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. So just be aware. Don't freak out.
Mm-hmm.
If something like that happens, you're just going to take a deep breath, exhale, and deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7. Whoops, 7. Number 7 is inspections, and I kind of said that a little bit. There's really no inspections. There's no inspections for the work that's being done on a new build or an addition or whatever. No inspections. So that's something that you have to deal with. Not like in the States. In the States, usually pay, right? Or maybe you're paying the contractor and he's charging you for the inspection fees, because there's always going to be fees, right? Because you have to get it inspected. But here, that pretty much just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like when we were, the contractor that built our house is already built, but we talked to, he had like a lead person that was in charge of the house building, and he wasn't very much help at all.
No.
I don't think.
No.
When we would see, you know, come across various issues in the house, he wasn't a lot of help. So a lot of that we kind of had to try to figure out how to solve on our own, and then we would have to hire someone to come in and do the work in a lot of cases.
We did have them do a few things, but they just basically put Band-Aids on it.
Yeah.
Like the whole window downstairs, our slider that was leaking, because we got a 1-year warranty.
Which you always get in Mexico when you buy a new house.
But it really didn't do us any good, because all they're going to do, because our window was leaking, the water was coming in like when we had a hard rain after we had bought the house and we're living here. We're like, So we called the contractor and tell him. So I think he sent somebody out at least 2 times, if not possibly 3. And they didn't fix it. They didn't take care of it. They didn't do like how these 2 men that came out and took each frame out and did what they needed to do, you know, on the whole window situation, clean it and do this and whatever they were doing. I wasn't watching them the whole time, but you know, they just put Band-Aids on it until your contract is up, and then it's like, okay, move on, we're done.
Your warranty's up.
Yeah, your 1-year warranty's up.
Yeah.
So now you're stuck with it.
We were still working through problems that existed when we bought the house, but a lot of times they would delay us or put us off, or they'd say, oh yeah, I'd send someone out, and then that person never shows up. So.
Yep. Number 8.
Numero 8, homeowners insurance. We don't have it, and hardly anybody gets it here in Mexico.
In the United States, you better make sure that you have homeowners insurance.
But here in Mexico, not really a necessity.
Stop.
Houses are built from cement and mortar and bricks. You don't really I don't think I've ever seen a structure fire here in Mexico. And so the homeowner's insurance isn't really a thing.
No, it's
or
not.
a
So you're
necessity.
saving money on on that.
Yeah.
You got your good, you got your bad, you know, weigh it all out.
And so we were surprised because we were prepared to buy homeowners insurance, and then because that's what you do in the U.S., but here, not so much. So.
Number 9.
Number 9. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but we're going to talk more in detail about painting and painters. A lot of times when they show up at your place, they don't have a ladder, they don't have paintbrushes, they never have tarps whatsoever. So you might wind up having to supply a lot of that stuff.
You will.
Yeah,
Not
you will.
You might.
Yeah.
Forget the might, okay?
Yeah.
Like this last painter, he brought paintbrushes.
No, he did.
Oh, he didn't. Okay, so we supplied those too?
No, he had to go up to the hardware store to get them, but he didn't show up here at our house with paintbrushes, no.
Okay.
He was hoping that we had some, but we didn't.
And then every painter that we've had that does something high to paint for us, if I don't do it myself, if it's too high, I don't want to fall and break a hip and die. So we'll hire somebody. And they're always using his ladder, you know. So they're always using your supplies, your ladders, all your stuff. You're buying the paint. They're just basically coming here and painting. That's it. In the U.S., if you hire a painter, you can either negotiate and you can negotiate here, whether they're going to buy the paint and then you're paying for it, or you're going to buy the paint that you want and you supply it.
Yeah, we always pick out the paint and buy it, but
yeah, that
here
we do.
painters, it's like they're basically just supplying the labor. They're not coming with any of the tools
Right, no supplies.
necessary to do the work.
Okay, number 10.
So
No, not 5.
number 10, motorcycles and motorcycle riders in Mexico. In the U.S., pretty much every motorcycle is going to have a helmet and stuff, and you maybe see 1 or 2 people on a motorcycle. Here, it's not uncommon to see 3 or 4 people on a motorcycle.
A daddy, even a baby,
Yeah,
small child, and then the mama in the back.
right.
I think
And-
4, maybe 5. 5 might have been the most,
Yeah.
because I think there is a baby in front of the father driving it, and then 2 sandwiched behind him, and then mama behind.
And the 5.
And you're not ever going to see that in the States.
And of the 5, only like 3 might have helmets.
Yeah, maybe 3 might have helmets.
And so that's another thing that you see on the road too.
And you know what? I get that that's all that they can afford. That is their only transportation. And I understand that. I really do. But you would never see that in the States. For one
Right.
thing, a motorcycle helmet is a law, right?
Yeah.
Here, not so much.
And here, I mean, these motorcycle drivers they're like daredevils, and it just doesn't matter if there's 1 person on the motorcycle or 4. They weave in and out of traffic. It's crazy, whereas you and I aren't motorcycle riders by any means, but we wouldn't be doing the stuff that they do.
No, a
Maybe
lot of the
they're-
motorcycles here, I think, take their life in their
Yeah.
own hands, because they'll cut in between you. They'll
Yeah.
be on both sides of you and pass you at the same time, which
Yeah.
always scares the bejeebies out of me when that happens.
Yeah.
But they got to get a little bit ahead of you, right? So they're passing you, and then they're cutting in front of you, and then they're going this way, and then they'll veer in front of the other one, and it's just crazy the way that they drive. I mean, it's not safe. If it were a safe distance situation, that would be one thing. There's no distance when they do
Yeah.
this stuff.
And I don't know about you guys, but the older I get, the more I think about my mortality in terms of, okay, if I fall, what's this going to do to me? Am I going to be messed up for life? Or, is a broken hip the beginning of the end for me? So I think about that kind of stuff, and so I tend to take a lot less chances than I used to.
Number 11.
Once.
Okay, I'll take number 11. Dishwashers. Dishwashers in the U.S. is a pretty standard thing. If you're looking to buy a house, 99.5% of the time or 99.9% of the time, you're going to find a dishwasher. I mean, it just goes without say. Mexico, I am the dishwasher. In Mexico, no, you can have a dishwasher put in. It's rare that people do that.
Yeah.
And it takes some treatment stuff, I think, that you have to do if you have a dishwasher installed.
Especially, again, if you're installing a dishwasher after the fact, because then they're going to have to break up some concrete to get some plumbing to it. They're going to have to break up some more concrete to run electrical to plug it into an outlet. Typically, it's a major task to get a dishwasher installed after the fact.
And like I said, like if you buy a house in the U.S., 99.9% of the time it's going to come with a dishwasher, be it a new house, a used house, whatever.
Yeah.
Here,
in Mexico, 99.9% of the time it's not going to have a dishwasher.
Right, unless the person chooses to install one. Number 12.
Dose. Number 12, garbage disposals. Rarely, if ever, will you see a garbage disposal in Mexico underneath a sink. And that surprised us because in the U.S. that's a standard thing.
It's pretty much like a dishwasher
in Mexico.
In the US.
Yeah, Mexico, not so much. And again, if you have a garbage disposal installed, I mean, it wouldn't be quite as bad because you would just run the plumbing from the garbage disposal back into the existing plumbing.
Like we don't have one here.
Yeah, we don't have one here. And so we just use those catchers in the bottom of the sink to catch anything that would go down the sink. But yeah, garbage disposals, not very common here in Mexico.
And again, it would probably be a hassle to put in. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe you just hire a plumber to do it, and hopefully it's done correctly. Like we know a really good plumber. William's a good plumber.
Yeah.
So we did find a good plumber. Of course, after 5 years, right? We probably found him after. No, actually, we found William when we bought the house.
Yeah.
One of our toilets wasn't flushing. And do you remember what the problem was, honey?
Someone had stuffed a huge brush in the plumbing of the toilet.
Not a regular hairbrush.
No.
We're talking like a scrubbing brush, probably about that thick, that long. Yeah.
And so the contractor had this plumber, which was
took
William,
off the toilet.
took off the toilet, and they looked down there, and sure enough, they found a huge scrubbing brush in the plumbing.
Yeah. Imagine that. So after that, we wrote down William's name, and then William came and he did our pump. We had to replace our
water pump for our house.
After what? Probably 4.5 years.
No, it wasn't even that long. It was 3 years, and then
3 years we had to replace our electric pump for our water so that we get pressure.
That was about 19,000 pesos, which at the time was a little over $1,000 US, and
we bought it.
Yeah, and he said that pumps only last about 3 to 5 years here in Mexico based on usage.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So we went to a supplier that sold them. I think he talked to William about it, and then he came out here and installed it, and it wasn't very much. It was less than $100, I think, to install it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that, $60, something like that. Okay. Number 13, I think. Okay, so there's 10, 11, 12, 13.
Tracy. Sure.
13.
Trash pickup. Now for us, they come by 3 days a week to pick up the garbage. Compared to the U.S., our experience was they would come by once a week.
And you paid in the U.S.
Yeah. And here it's free. But they don't, as an example, they don't pick up like the recycling separately from the garbage or the green waste at all. It all goes into one, even though Paulette and I make an effort still to recycle.
We do.
Separate the aluminum and the glass in
Put
the
the aluminum
plastic.
and glass in one box and set it out on garbage day. And there's usually that somebody comes around on garbage day and goes through that and takes all the aluminum cans.
Yeah, they leave the glass behind. So there isn't any, there isn't much in the way of recycling that goes on here in Mexico that we see. Now they may go through it at some other place and pull that stuff
Maybe.
out that we don't know about. But usually, like where we came from in the U.S., we had a regular garbage can, we had a green waste can, and we had a recycling can. But here, they just
And you
don't do
paid
that.
for that.
Yeah,
You paid for that.
yeah. They were making money off your recycling, and you were paying them to pick it up.
That's right. You were
So-
paying for your garbage. So here, not so much. Once a year, they'll come around and they'll ask for donations, and I'm not sure exactly what that goes to. But like if we have other trash, like that we pick up or something, and we set it out there, and we got those big black bags, like I'll give them a little something on taking that every now and again, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is quite a difference here in Mexico versus the U.S. Number 14.
14.
Okay, number 14. In the U.S., for your dryers, you usually have an outside vent situation in the wall for the gas, air, whatever it is to go out there, right? Here, nope, you're not going to get that. And when we bought this house, we didn't have that.
And we still don't have that.
We still don't have that. But the good thing is we do have a good sized window in our laundry room. So I always just leave the window open. And then what I do also is, I don't know, maybe every 2 months or something, I'll go through and I'll pull the dryer out, and then I'll vacuum back there really good. I'll use the broom and get any dust that's back there. It's not real bad. And then I'll use the broom first, get that out, and then I'll use the vacuum cleaner that we have and get out the remaining that's there. However, by the windowsill area and the back wall, because I have tile so high in my laundry room, like there's like a little edge, and that edge and the windowsill will get a lot of that,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call that dust, whatever stuff like that would go out from a vent. So I have to clean that regularly. So
Additionally, here in Mexico, for that reason, you don't put your dryer right up next to the wall like you would in the U.S. Ours sits out a distance from the wall.
yeah, it does. It sits out a distance from the wall about that much, and then about, that much from the wall behind, that much on the wall on the side. And then I have my washer over here, and there's a little gap in between both of those. So, yeah, but I pull it out and, get underneath it, pull it out far enough where, I'm getting all of that dust. And I do that about every 2 months, something like that. And I'm due again to do it.
Okay.
And last, number 15.
No real estate license required to show property. When we were looking at properties, we did like a lot of people do in the beginning. We looked at like Facebook Marketplace, and we just reached out to random people, and they would never come and pick us up. We always had to meet them somewhere or on the road somewhere. And a lot of times they would have their family in the car with them. And I'm pretty sure they weren't licensed in any way. Eventually we did find a pretty good agent. I think she was an agent anyway, but she did a good job for us. She was an agent more like you would expect in the U.S. She would come and pick us up at our apartment and take us different houses to check out, and she looked at, you know, she made a list of things that we were looking for in a house and helped narrow things down, which was very helpful to us. But when you're looking through a house and you're looking through like Facebook Marketplace, that's going to be very frustrating for you, because very often these people don't even have the right to sell the house. They're just listing it and then hoping to get some kind of commission. You know, if we went ahead and bought the house.
And that person, non-licensed person, and maybe in some places like Puerto Vallarta, maybe they're working on getting their license and stuff like that, maybe more in expat haven areas, but I still don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't. I think it's rare. Here in Mexico, in the United States, you need to be licensed.
But for those of you that have looked for houses, to buy houses or to rent, because we experience the same thing with rentals too, let us know in the comments below if your experience was different than ours.
That's pretty much a wrap. We just wanted to. Ooh, that wind's kicking up. Getting a little bit nippy, getting a little bit gray. So we just wanted to share some of the differences. So don't freak out, you know, because there's just differences. You got to realize that moving to another country, it's a different culture, all that sort of stuff. So things are just different. So we're just kind of giving you some forewarnings what to expect or not to expect.
And if we can get through it, anybody can get through it.
Yeah, and I'm a type A. So a type A personality has a really hard time with stuff like this. But, you know, we're going on almost 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
7 years in November. And somehow, some way, we've gotten through it. Sometimes it's easier than others, but we've done it. And if we can do it,
you can do it.
You guys can do it too.
All right. That's a wrap.
All right, so that's a wrap from the Two Travelers in Mexico. If you guys like what we're doing, we hope that you'll consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. And we also have a Facebook. That's a private group. You have to answer a few questions in order to join. But we post different things there. So yeah, that's all we have for you this week. And as always, from the Two Travelers in Mexico.
What she did.
Bye, guys.
Bye.